Every year, the United States recognizes its independence as a colony from Britain on July 4th. Most Americans fire up the grill to cook hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken wings, and ribs to be served with various salads and watermelon for dessert. But did you know that before the Industrial Revolution dammed up the rivers, in New England, the tradition was salmon and peas with new potatoes? By the end of June, the salmon would return to the great rivers of the Northeast in vast numbers to spawn, and the pea pods would be just fat enough on the vines, so the two became a New England Independence Day tradition. Although the Atlantic salmon don't run like they used to anymore, and the trend has changed to more of meat over fish, we can celebrate all of America with this Yankee Heritage 4th of July recipe.
Although creamed salmon with peas is a traditional New England Independence Day meal, I've assembled the ingredients from all over the country. The first ingredient that you'll need is a quarter of a cup of white rice. And I've selected Carolina brand white rice. This is grown in the USA and is distributed by companies in Texas, but there's a number of states that grow the rice. Carolina was where rice first came to the United States. So we have a quarter of a cup measured, and I'm going to put that into a bag marked creamed salmon rice. I'll close this up, get as much of the air out of it as possible, and set that aside. The next ingredient is 1 5-ounce can, undrained, of pink salmon from Alaska. This is Alaska pink salmon, and it is 5 ounces undrained or 4 ounces drained. We have a 8.5-ounce can of sweet peas. These are from California. And those ingredients will be mixed into a package that is going to have creamed salmon spices. Now this consists of cornstarch, and this is 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, also a product of the USA. 1 teaspoon of butter granules. These are from New Jersey. A quarter of a teaspoon of dill. This is packaged in the USA. A dash of white pepper. Black pepper may be substituted, but white pepper is preferred. And all of these products have a USA packaging or distribution. You will also need a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. This is from Canada. And a 5-ounce can of evaporated milk. This is licensed from Switzerland. All of these ingredients will go into a bag that is marked creamed salmon with rice, creamed salmon with peas over rice. And the first thing you'll want to put in is the canned goods. So we'll place in the salmon, the peas, and I noticed that the salmon will need a can opener. The evaporated milk will also need a can opener. We'll go ahead and put in the rice. And all of the mixed spices. We'll seal this bag up and it will be ready for us when we're out in the field to prepare our creamed salmon with peas over rice. I'm here at the Salem WIllows Pavilion in Salem, Massachusetts. If you hear sounds going on in the background, that's because they are working to build out a new pier at Salem WIllows. Today I'm going to make creamed salmon with peas over rice. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get out our ingredients, and we have the creamed salmon spices, our can of sweet peas, can of evaporated milk, the rice, and of course the salmon itself. I'm going to put this bag aside. And we'll need some other ingredients as well. And that would include a lighter for the stove, a spoon to stir, a can opener for opening the salmon, and a church key can opener to open the evaporated milk. You should also have a pot holder and a dish for your meal when it's ready. Today we're going to be using my small mess kit, which includes a metal plate, measuring cup, pan and lid, and a frying pan. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to cook the rice. And to do that, we'll start out by opening the can of peas and draining the liquid into the measuring cup. Set the can of peas aside for now. And that measures about a half a cup of liquid that's in the peas. Now if you don't have a half a cup of liquid, you can just use your water to top up to a half a cup. And we're going to pour that right into the pot. So let's light the stove. And I'm using the propane stove today. This is a single burner stove. It's available pretty much anywhere. And we're going to just place the pan onto the heat Put the cover on.
On opening day of the season in 1912, Carl Anderson, a Bangor, Maine house painter, pulled the first two salmon out of the Penobscot River. One, a 16-pounder, he sent to William Campbell Clark of the Clark Thread Company in Newark, New Jersey, who would pay the highest price for it. But the second he packed in ice and sent as a gift to the White House. William Howard Taft, who summered just across Beverly Harbor at Woodbury Point, graciously accepted the present and, not being a small man, consumed the whole 11-pound fish, poached along with cream sauce and a garnish of parsley.
So it's been about 5 minutes or so, and you can see that water is boiling a little bit. We're going to take our rice and we're just going to empty the rice into the pot with the liquid from the peas. Make sure you get all of the rice in there, and then stir that up so that all of the rice is covered. Now you'll want to reduce the heat to low because the rice doesn't want to boil, it just wants to simmer. You want to reduce it to almost off. Now, if while it's cooking, the lid starts to pop, then your temperature is too high and you'll have to reduce it some more. That's going to take about 15 minutes for that rice to cook through.
American newspapers reported on the gift to Taft, and thus began an annual tradition of sending the first Atlantic salmon caught on the fly to the President of the United States as what became known as the presidential salmon. The Bangor tradition continued through most of the following presidents, although in 1925 President Coolidge missed out due to a communication kerfuffle with the fish market. He did receive others, including one presented to him by Maine Senators Fred Hale and Arthur Gould, along with Representative Ira Hersey, who hoped to curry favor for the state.
Now you can see that over here there's still some bubbles, so that rice is almost done. We're just going to let it go for another minute or two. While that rice is finishing up, let's go ahead and move to the next step. First thing we're going to do is we're going to open our can of salmon. Drain the liquid from the salmon right into the frying pan. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in the evaporated milk. Be sure to shake the milk so that it gets completely mixed. Then, using your church key can opener, add that to the frying pan as well. And stir that in. While that rice finishes up, I'm going to mix in the dill and the cornstarch into the cream sauce. give that a good stir to make sure that all of that cornstarch is broken up.
In 1916, Jeanette Sullivan, who I could not locate a photo of, was the only woman who snared the coveted presidential salmon from the Bangor salmon pool for Woodrow Wilson 4 years before she was legally allowed to vote for any president.
So as you can see, the rice has essentially absorbed all of the liquid. So we're going to remove this. It's been about, a little more than 15 minutes. We'll give this rice a little bit of a stir, and then we're just going to let it sit. That will continue to absorb the remaining amount of liquid. Well, we go ahead and finish off the recipe by putting the cream sauce onto the heat. Now it's important that the heat is low because you don't want the milk to boil. So we're going to place that cream sauce right here on the heat and make sure that heat is low, and we'll just continue to stir it to assure that all of the cornstarch has been broken down and is part of the sauce itself. Now it just needs a gentle stir.
FDR was the biggest winner, having received 12 presidential salmon during his 13 years in office. But by the 1960s, the salmon population had dwindled to almost non-existent. Although Richard Nixon never got a fish, it was under his watch that Maine Senator Muskie, seen here along with Vice President Hubert Humphrey, pushed through the legislation for the Clean Water Act, reducing the Penobscot's pollution by 80%. By the mid-70s, the salmon were back, but the nails were already going into the coffin.
As that cream sauce starts to thicken, go ahead and add in the can of peas and just stir that right in. And also add in the Alaskan pink salmon. Stirring that in as well. Reduce the heat and let that continue to thicken.
President Reagan was the first to receive the seafood in 1981, and several more besides. When his vice president was elected, George H.W. Bush, who had a place in Maine, may have had an inkling that he would be the last to receive the highly prized gift. The Atlantic salmon population was still on the decline internationally. In 1992, knowing that the president was at his compound in Kennebunkport, Maine, Claude Westfall and his wife Rosa May packed the first catch of the season in ice and drove 3 hours to personally deliver the ocean's silver to the president and Barbara Bush. That was the end, however. In 2000, the king of fish was placed on the endangered species list and remains there to this day, forcing an end to the 80-year tradition.
Let's just give it a try and see how warm it is. It needs a little bit more time.
Organizations such as the Atlantic Salmon Federation and Trout Unlimited are hopeful that someday the presidential salmon will again be awarded with an increase in the fish's population, but that may take decades, if ever.
Once that cream sauce is thickened, go ahead and remove it from the heat and turn off the stove. Take your dish and spoon the rice into your dish. Now, spoon the cream sauce over your rice. And you have a traditional New England 4th of July meal. As a side note, in 1993, Claude Westfall's son, caught what could have been the last presidential salmon in Maine. But the Clinton administration took so long in responding that Scott gave up and ate the Silver King himself. As Julia Child would say, bon appetit, and clean up your mess. If you've enjoyed this video and want to support me and my channel and see more of videos like this, please subscribe, like, and share this video so that others can be aware of it. Thank you.